face like mad oily or something? All right, so here are 10 Premiere Pro tips that you can use to speed up your workflow and your edit in your timeline. So let's go. Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Isaiah Peter and I help content creators level up their production game. And today I got 10 tips for you on how to speed up your workflow in Premiere Pro specifically. These key commands can translate into other platforms and other editing softwares, but they just may be labeled different, so you just have to do your research. But the general principles and the shortcuts and the actual usage of them are pretty much the same. So super quick, these 10 tips are the ones that we're going to go over, so let's jump right in. Okay, so now that we're in the timeline, the first one is going to be QWE. And that's to cut before the playhead, which is Q, at the playhead, which is W, and E after the playhead. And the reason why this saves so much time is you don't have to constantly take your hands on and off the keyboard. You literally have your cut commands right at the tip of your fingers. So instead of moving your keyboard, going here, cutting, coming back, and then moving it, and then you're like, actually, I need this part right here, so I'm gonna go back here and I'm gonna cut this. You know, there's gonna be none of that. With QWE, I'll show you right here. You can cut at the playhead, you can cut after the playhead, and you can cut before the playhead. And it'll literally, I promise you, it'll literally save you so much time. So that's tip number 1. On to number 2. So tip number 2 and 3, I'm just gonna kind of pair together because they actually work really well together. And it's Command C and Command V. And you may have heard of this because you can use it in other things like Google, which I'll show you right here. And you can kind of see like right here, I can just command this on this calculator and then just go into here and Command V. And it's the same thing for Premiere Pro. You can take this clip, Command V it, move the playhead, and then Command V that. And then that way you have 2 clips right there. So that's tip number 2 and 3. It's super basic. You can do that for audio files. You can do that for effects. You can do that for overlays. You can do that for transitions. You can do that for video clips. Whatever it is that you need to do in Premiere, Command C and Command V is to copy and to paste. Okay, so tip number 4 is not a keyboard shortcut, but it's just something you can add into your workflow so that you can use your time effectively, but also still get stuff done. So it's being able to export while you edit. So the issue is sometimes you'll be editing your video and then you have to export a draft out to a client. Now, the problem is while you're exporting your video, you're just gonna have to sit there and twiddle your thumbs if you don't do it this way. All right, so as you can see here, we have our song, we have our video. So pretty much I'm gonna Command A, just make sure I export everything, and then I'm gonna Command M it. And then if you have the Adobe Creative Cloud Suite, you're gonna have Media Encoder. So you're gonna be able to click Media Encoder. It's gonna automatically transport it over here, and this is where it's at right here. And then what you would do is select it, and you hit the little green play button. And you'll see right here, it's exporting the video with all your settings and everything that you need. And then while it's doing that, you can come over here and you can still edit and it won't affect the current export. And you'll be able to get stuff out to your client. You'll be able to do what you need and your time will be not wasted and you're gonna use it a lot more effectively and it'll be optimal for when you do have like multiple clients. You can export one draft and then you can work on another edit while that's working. So that's tip number 4 on to number 5. All right, this one's super simple and super quick, but they're actually really helpful in your timeline, especially when you're having effects and edits and certain clips and you need to keep a sequence in order and just to kind of know where you're at in the edit. So it's actually the key M, and that's how you add a marker into your edit. So I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so you see over here, we got our video. Okay, I just want to make sure that I know this clip starts here, but I want to be able to move this clip around and then do some edits. So what I can do is I can hit here, hit M, and then while I move it, and then I can adjust this one and that one and move stuff around, I know this is the original editing point that I want to get to, and I can start making my edits there, and then that's kind of pretty much it. And then if you ever wanted to be like, all right, I just want it to start here, I want to do my cut here, I want to do a transition here, and then I want to do another cut here. It's a super simple shortcut, but especially when you're using it for music and you want to get on tempo and on beat, you can use that key command to just play through the song and then just hit each cut point that you want on beat. And it saves so much time in the editing process of having to line up the clip. Like you just kind of have the general area and then you just have to tweak it in the middle. All right, so that's tip number 5 and we're gonna go on to number 6. Tip number 6 is super quick, but it's just something that can save you a little bit more time in your edit because the little bits of time that you take your hand off your keyboard and you do all these other cuts and all these other things, time starts to add up in your edit, and especially if you're working for a client, time is money in that aspect. And the more work you can get done, the more work you can take on, the more money you can make. Okay, so this key command is actually Command minus and then Command plus. And this expands your timeline horizontally and vertically. So for me, I have my clips here and you can kind of see the preview of the clips and what they look like here. And then if I wanted to have any other clips and I wanted to see where we're at, we can do that as well. So if I have multiple clips, I can go like this, and then also Command C and Command V. This is where that actually comes in. You can go Command V, pop that up here, and then you have Command V again, and then you pop that up here. And then that way I can Command plus them, and that way I can see all of them, or I can just Command minus and have them all kind of in view, and whatever I need it, I can see it. So that's a really helpful tip, and that's something that you can implement super easy in your timeline, and that'll save you a lot of time in the long run. All right, on to tip number 7. Okay, so tip number 7 is setting your in and your out points, and I'll show you what that looks like on the computer. Okay, so here I have the video right here, and as you can see, the starting of the clip starts here and the ending of the clip is right here. So if I just wanted a part of this clip, I can go I on my keyboard, and then I can go to the ending clip after the wave stops, and then I can go to the ending clip after the wave gets to a certain point, and I can hit O. And that way it only plays just this part right here, and that's all I want. And that'll also automatically do that for you in your timeline. So if you hit your in point, it'll cut it for you. If you hit your out point, it'll cut it for you. So that's a super quick tip. And on to tip number 8. All right, so this is key command A. And what this key command does is you're able to select the clips that you want to move and to be able to move them forward without affecting anything else. So I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so look, I have all these clips right here. So let's say I want to move 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But I want to leave these 2 there. So I would hit A on my keyboard. And as I selected all of them, I just move them over. And that way only those clips are affected that I wanted to move, and these don't get affected at all. And then to go back, you just press V. And then to go back, you just press, and then you just kind of continue forward on it with it. So that's another quick tip that you can use for just kind of moving clips around and moving your timeline around without having to waste time or anything like that. Or just going clip by clip and moving them each one at a time. You can move them all at once, and you can move section by section. And as you grow in your edits and as your timelines, start to stack up, you'll start to implement that a lot more. All right, so tip number 9 is Shift D. And essentially what this does is it adds a fade onto your audio clip. So I'll show you what that looks like. So I have this placement track right here, so I'm gonna hit Shift and D, and as you can see, it added this crossfade right here. So if there's a clip or like a weird sound in the beginning, but it's kind of essential for it fading in, I can add the crossfade in and it'll gradually bring up the audio for me. As you can see right here, I'll show you again. It'll gradually bring the audio up for me. And that's super useful if you have a lot of transitions and a lot of like whoosh effects or risers or anything like that, but you just don't want the beginning to clip, or maybe the actual audio file, you just want it to fade in a little bit slower. So you can use it with that, and you can also adjust the curve with that as well. So that's adding a fade to your audio tracks. Shift D. It's a good one. That's a good one. I'll tell you that for sure. All right, so tip number 10 is nesting your clips. And essentially the workaround that I use nesting for is if I have a clip that I want to stabilize, but that I also want to slow down and use slow-mo parts of it, I can't slow the clip down and use warp stabilizer on it. So the workaround for that is nesting your clips. And I'll show you what that looks like. All right, so let's say for instance, I wanted to, let's just make this simple, right? We don't want to complicate our brains. So let's say we have this one clip and I want to slow it down by 60%. All right, so now that I slowed it down by 60%, let's say like the footage was actually shaky and I wanted to warp stabilize it. Obviously this footage is not shaky, but you can kind of get the point of it. But this footage would be shaky and I wanted to warp stabilize it. So what I would do is I would go to my window, I would go to my effects, I would type in warp stabilizer, which is right here. And as I put it on, you'll also see warp stabilizer and speed can't be used on the same clip. So the workaround is, for me, I have on my keyboard shortcuts, as you can see, I have it right here. I made it nest. Well, the way you would do that is you would come to your keyboard shortcuts, you would type in nest, and then right over here, you'll click right here and it'll show up an empty box. And then you just hit the key command that you want it to be selected to, which is N, and then you press OK. And then you have to come over here and make sure that if you do have a warp stabilizer on it, you just want to make sure to take it off. So we're going to do N, and it's going to ask your nest sequence. You can name it whatever you want. It'll nest it for you, and then you're able to add warp stabilizer on it. All right, so I hope you got some value out of that. I hope those tips really help. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, do all the YouTube things. I love you so much. I'm praying for you. And God, I just pray that every person watching this, whether they believe in Jesus or not, I pray that you just bless them with this knowledge, that you empower them to do what they do, and that they meet you through what they're doing. So I love y'all. Like, subscribe, do all the YouTube things, and I'll see you on the next video. Deuces.